Marley gunned his motorcycle down the winding back roads, his brand new Knox Knight Rider's hoodie billowing behind him like a superhero cape. 1 week into riding, and he was already living the dream, or at least desperately trying to look like he was. The chat message from TJ burned in his mind. Meeting at the quarry in 2 hours. Bring your cameras. 2 hours? That had to be a typo. Why would anyone wait that long for such an epic photo opportunity? Clearly, TJ meant they were meeting in 20 minutes. The thought of missing his first official ride with the group sent Marley's heart racing faster than his engine. The quarry wasn't where he expected it to be. After 30 minutes of circling increasingly unfamiliar roads, Marley pulled over beside a scenic riverside overlook. His phone showed no new messages from the group chat, but the setting sun painted the water with exactly the kind of golden light that screamed Instagram-worthy. When life gives you empty quarries, make content, Marley muttered, positioning his pristine Icon Airflight helmet on a rocky outcropping. The visor caught the light perfectly, creating an ethereal blue and gold reflection that would definitely earn him some respect in the riding community. He stepped back, phone raised, then watched in horror as a gust of wind caught the helmet and sent it tumbling toward the water. Time seemed to slow as Marley lunged forward, his fingers grazing the helmet's edge before it disappeared into the river with a mocking plop. He stood frozen, staring at the ripples where $800 of protective equipment had just vanished. "This is fine," he said to absolutely no one. "This is totally manageable." The water didn't look that deep. The helmet's white shell would be easy to spot. Marley glanced around the deserted overlook before shrugging off his prized hoodie. The jeans followed, then his pristine Air Jordans, carefully arranged on the rocks. Standing in his Batman boxers, because of course this would happen on superhero underwear day, he took his first tentative step into the water. Sweet mother of... The cold hit him like 1,000 tiny needles, but there was no turning back now. He waded deeper, grateful that the fading light would make it harder for any passing cars to spot him. The water reached his waist, then his chest, as he felt around with his feet for any helmet-shaped objects. That's when he heard the distinctive rumble of approaching motorcycles. Panic seized him as the sound grew louder. He dove under the surface, hoping to both hide and possibly spot his helmet in one desperate move. The water was murkier than expected, and his foot caught on something, probably a branch, hopefully not a snake, sending him flailing to the surface just as headlights swept across the overlook. "Is that someone skinny dipping in our spot?" a familiar voice called out. Marley wiped the water from his eyes to find TJ and at least a dozen Knox Knight Riders parked above him, cameras already out and recording. His Batman boxers had somehow worked their way halfway down his thighs in the underwater struggle. "I can't explain," Marley shouted, trying to simultaneously cover himself, pull up his underwear, and maintain some semblance of dignity. "I thought the meeting was right now, and then my helmet fell in, and..." "Meeting's not for another hour, buddy," TJ called back, barely containing his laughter. "But please, don't let us interrupt your swimming routine." "I found it!" Marley's hand closed around the familiar shape of his helmet, now filled with river water and probably home to at least one confused fish. He held it up triumphantly, then immediately lost his balance and went under again. When he finally dragged himself onto the shore, soaking wet and covered in what he hoped was just river moss, TJ was waiting with a spare towel from his saddlebag. "You know," TJ said, wrapping the towel around Marley's shoulders, "most new members just bring donuts to their first meeting, but I got to admit, this is way more memorable." The other riders were still laughing, but it didn't feel mean-spirited. Someone had rescued his clothes from the rocks, and another rider was already wringing out his hoodie. "So," TJ continued, "want to tell us the full story over coffee? Seems like you've earned your place in the Knox Knight Riders legend book." Marley looked down at his waterlogged helmet, then at his new riding companions, and finally allowed himself to laugh. "Well, it all started when I decided 2 hours definitely meant 20 minutes.